Hi, my name is Ben, this is Board Game Dad, and today I'm going to be reviewing Board Game Geek's 100 top ranked games. I'm going to be pretty hard on all of these games. In fact, there are only 12 that I'm highly recommending. 12 out of 100. That's a lot of material to cover, so instead of an introduction, I will use the first game as an example of how I'll conduct this review. The first game is Gloomhaven, and with each of these games, the first thing I'll do is briefly describe what it's about. So, in Gloomhaven, you are basically exploring towns and cities and dungeons and different land. You're just fighting monsters, and you're using cards to do that. It actually has some excellent card mechanics to drive the gameplay. Now, some special notes. So I do have a special note about Gloomhaven. The thing about Gloomhaven is I feel much about it being the #1 board game as I would feel if somebody told me that golf was the #1 sport. It's not so much that it's a description of how it is as a board game, rather a description of how limited we are in our vocabulary to call it a board game. I don't want to say that Gloomhaven isn't a board game, because like saying that golf isn't a sport, it takes away some of the dignity of something that is very popular with a lot of people and a lot of people find enjoyable. But it's like a board game with an asterisk, and the asterisk is role-playing shared experience. I mean, this is a shared story that you run through with your friends. That's my special note. And that category, if when we encounter more games like that, I'm going to call these adventure games. That brings me to the next part, which is what you'll like. I am going to tell you what anybody will like about each game and what they might not like. With Gloomhaven, you're going to love it if you like a game with a strong theme and a game that tells a story. But you're not going to like it if you're like me and you don't like as much discovery when you play a game. So lastly, for my personal rating, I don't feel very strongly about the game. I would say like it's a 3, but objectively the game is really well done. So I guess I would say it's a 4, but I don't really want to play it. So not for me is my personal ranking. Okay, so that's the formula for this review. Moving on to the next game, we've got Brass. Brass and Lancaster are both on this list, and they are both economic games. So what's going on is you are building canals and you're building railroads in order to establish routes through which you can trade different commodities. And there's a whole economy of things that can be traded, both sold and purchased during the game. So ideally you want to buy low and sell high, but you also need to establish a network in order to get a supply chain. This is a very interesting economic game. But because of the amount of management that's involved, you might not like it if it could be a little bit taxing. For me personally, the theme doesn't very much appeal, and I do think the game is more drawn out with the different ages that it has, so I feel a little neutral about it, a 3 out of 5. The next game is Pandemic Legacy Season 1 at number 3. So this is a game where you've probably heard of Pandemic before. You are fighting off a world pandemic, and it's a cooperative game, which it takes a lot for me to get really excited about a cooperative game. I've got to say, they're also not usually my style. I enjoy playing them, and I enjoy playing with any group, but cooperative games aren't really my thing. You would like this game if you like a strong theme. There is a really great tension that builds through the course of the game, and if you really like a good cooperative game. But you might not like it for the luck aspect. I do find that games of Pandemic depend less on what the players do and more on what the cards are. And then with Pandemic, you've got alternating strengths and weaknesses. If you win a game, you are made weaker. If you lose a game, you're made stronger. You've got that going on as well. I feel better than neutral, though. I gave this game a 4. The next game, number 4, is Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, which I feel is just a more accessible version of Gloomhaven. In fact, I would say if you're watching this video to know whether or not Gloomhaven is a game for you, it's probably not a game for you, because people who like that kind of game are already going to know what it's about and they'll already be into it. You're not going to need me to tell you. But if you're curious, Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion is where you start. But I still feel neutral about it, so I give it a 3. The next game, number 5, is Terraforming Mars. Terraforming Mars is a game where you are trying to get points for making the planet Mars inhabitable, and you're doing this by changing tiles and building oxygen and increasing the temperature. There's a lot of really cool things going on here thematically, but I have made a lot of noise about not liking this game. And I don't like it because it is the first game in a category I'm going to introduce. It is the luck mismatch. And what I mean by luck mismatch is that when I play Terraforming Mars, the seriousness of the theme and the seriousness of the gameplay makes me expect a lot more strategy and not so much luck. I get really frustrated by the luck in this game because ultimately what you can do or not do is determined by the cards that you get during the course of the game. So it's not that I don't like luck, but I don't like luck when it frustrates my efforts to be strategic. But thematically, this is a very rich game. You would love it if you like a space theme. You might not like it if you don't like a very, very long game, or if you think that a strategic game that depends on cards will be frustrating to you. So I don't like it. I gave it a 2. Number 6 is Twilight Imperium, 4th edition. This is not the only time we're going to see Twilight Imperium. This is an epic game of conquering the galaxy. Each player has a alien race that they're using to spread out and spread influence and fight each other. They have technology tracks. There's a lot going on when you play this game. This can be like a 10, 12-hour game. It is very, very involved. So you'd love it if you love a strong theme, space. You'd love it if you like an epic game or if you want a day-long experience. Mechanically, it just has everything going on, but the duration is a big drawback for a lot of people. I put a 3 on here. I don't feel like a 3. I feel like a 4. I mean, it is so much fun, but it's really hard to play it often because of how long it takes. It also creates another category, which I'm going to refer to in this review. It's the category of games that have more than what is needed. There's a little too much game here involved. I mean, that's why the game takes so long. It could have, I like games that are streamlined, where the essence of the game is embodied in a more, it doesn't have to be simple, but it doesn't have to be overwhelmingly complex. By the way, there is a little bit of color coordination if you're looking at the CSV. Purple relates to complexity, pink relates to theme, and teal relates to mechanics. You'll learn it as we go along. So, number 7. Number 7 is Ark Nova. Ark Nova, you're building a zoo. And interestingly, it feels very similar to Terraforming Mars because you're building your zoo using cards. You've got tile placement, just like Terraforming Mars. You've got objectives that players are investing in, just like Terraforming Mars. They call them conservation projects. But I do think it's a lot more streamlined. So you would like this game if you like the card mechanic, where you're cycling through the different actions that you can do, and the longer you wait to perform an action, the stronger the action becomes. It's a really brilliant mechanic. You won't like the game because of its luck element, if luck is an issue, but because it's more streamlined, I like it more than Terraforming Mars, and I gave it a 4. Okay, number 8 is Star Wars Rebellion, and here is where I have to confess that I have not played all of these games. And the reason why I haven't played all of these games is because I'm a dad with a day job. So, sometimes, when there are games that just aren't very interesting to me, I don't prioritize them. I haven't prioritized Star Wars because I'm not into IP games, intellectual property games. It just doesn't really strike a chord with me. I haven't even looked into this one. So I'm going to have to skip number 8. We'll go into number 9, which is Gaia Project. Gaia Project is a re-implementation of Terra Mystica, which is later on the list. Rather than describe Gaia Project, I'm going to wait until Terra Mystica and describe them both then. For number 10. Number 10 is Spirit Island right now. And it is a cooperative game that is absolutely brilliant. It is so complex. It's one of these games where players have different player powers. They are spirits that are trying to protect the island from these invading explorers. And these explorers are, have predicted moves. They know what the explorers are going to do, so they need to stop disease from spreading through the island and get rid of as many explorers as they can. This is a brilliantly designed game. It is probably the most complex cooperative game that I've played. And because of its complexity, you might really like this game. You could really get into this game. But because of its complexity, you might really not like this game. It takes so much time, and if I'm going to play something complex, if I'm going to play something cooperative, it's hard when there's a differential in how experienced people are when the game is so complex. So I feel kind of neutral about it, and I gave it a 3, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means my personal opinion is that I don't want to play this game so much. Number 11 is War of the Ring. That's an IP game. I'm sorry, it's not for me. I gotta skip it. Okay, number 12, Through the Ages, A New Story of Civilization. So this is a game where you are buying cards that come out in a market. As you take cards, the market fills up, and the ones that are farther on one side are more expensive than the ones on the other side. And each of these cards helps you build an economy, helps you build your war, helps you make your science. And what you're trying to do is be competitive with the other players to have the most successful civilization. So I think it is very, very interesting, but it's also very long. So you would love this game for its theme. There's a lot to focus on as you're trying to competitively draft these cards. But a big weakness of the game is that it takes a really long time. So for me, I like it a lot. It's a 4, but I'm not going to go any higher than that because the duration, I think, detracts from the greatness of the game. Number 13 is Great Western Trail. This is a game where you are making points by collecting cattle cards and then trading them with Kansas City, and you're making money by selling cattle. You're doing this by moving your cowboy, cowgirl along a circuit of different actions. Those actions change as more and more people create actions during the course of the game. I do not like this game at all. I do not like anything about this game. For strength, it has no strengths. For weaknesses, it has its theme as a weakness, and here's why. It is the first game on this list in the category which I'm going to be calling A's and B's. Here's the thing with A's and B's. This is also a special note for the game. A's and B's means I can make a board game where the objective is to get the most victory points, and you get victory points by trading 3 D's, but in order to get 3 D's, you need to have 2 C's and a B, and then in order to get a B, you need to have 2 A's, but you can only trade A's if you have a C. Like, do you see what I'm saying? A bunch of variables. It's just a bunch of meaningless variables. And I could make a game as complex as I wanted to with A's and B's, trading A's and B's and da-da-da-da-da-da. And you just be like, whatever. It's going right over your head because all of it is meaningless. All of it is meaningless. And Great Western Trail with all of the different actions that you can do, like, okay, you go here and you can get some more cattle cards, and you can go here and you can build something, you can trade this, you can go along this track, da-da-da-da-da. It's thematically so weak that it doesn't catch on with me. So I don't like it. If I had to say anything was nice about this game at all, I do like the circuit. I like that you draw a hand of cards, you have to go through this circuit to perform actions to optimize your hand of cards, and then you deposit the hand of cards in order to make money, and you repeat that over and over again. But it's A's and B's. We're going to see a lot of A's and B's on this list. Okay. Number 14 is Twilight Struggle. Twilight Struggle is a Cold War game. It is 2-player only, US versus the Soviet Union. And the thing about this game is it is a very luck-heavy game. You are drawing cards, and you are playing these cards against your opponent to either spread influence or to have events happen that will either, create battles, like little war events to flex your military muscle, or score different regions of the map. But I've complained so much about games that have this luck. But here's the thing about Twilight Struggle that I really, really like. It is the luck that you can deal with in a very meaningful way. How you handle the luck really, really matters to me. And what I love about Twilight Struggle is thematically it is a struggle. You're trying to overpower an opponent who is racing to overpower you, and both of you are only going to have bad luck. Like, seriously, every hand you draw in this game sucks. So people who don't like it are going to say, I hate this game. I always have bad luck. And the thing I like about it is that's the premise of the game. The premise of the entire game is you have bad luck. How are you going to deal with it? And how are you going to spin it to your advantage? That really works for me. So luck that you can deal with in a meaningful way. Thematically, I think it's fantastic. Mechanically, with the way that the cards work, I think it's fantastic. The duration is a big drawback. This is a long game. It could take 4 hours probably. Sometimes it can end early though. How you win, there are certain different victory conditions. So it doesn't have to take 4 hours, but it could. Yet, I recommend this game. I recommend this game with the caveat that 1, it could be too long for you, and 2, you seriously might hate the luck. But thematically, I think it works, and I think it's meaningful. Number 15 is Dune Imperium. This is an IP game that I have played, and it is a well-rounded game. All of the things work. What you're doing is it's basically a deck builder. You're using the cards in your hand to perform actions, but the cards that you don't use for actions are the cards you get to use to buy your next card and grow your hand. So you got to decide, okay, well, this is a really valuable card if I spend it, but if I use it, I can do this action instead. I love that. I think it was doing very, very well done. I would recommend the game, but I'm so not interested in IP games. I played it with friends, and I think it's a great game. I have such a bias. I read Dune. I don't like the book Dune. The movie was okay. Anyway. Number 16 is Scythe. Scythe is probably the first game on this list that is perfect. If you like what it's about. I mean, this is an alternate history game where you have a little bit of economy. You're getting workers, you're getting resources, using the workers to spread out and harvest from different regions of the map. And then you have these little warriors and mechs and things that are going out to defend your area. So if somebody invades you, there can be a battle, and you use cards to resolve the battle. But and each player has a unique ability that you're trying to capitalize on. Plus, rather than being a victory point game, there is a victory condition that you're racing to fulfill. The game, I have no criticisms of this game at all. It is perfect. But here's the thing. I'm not always in the mood to play it, or I'm rarely in the mood to play it actually, because I don't like so much, I don't like the risk of combat in the game. Somebody called it a threat of war game. It's not a war game, it's a threat of war game. And I don't like the tension that the threat of war adds. I think that's my problem with it, but if you can handle that, the game is, mechanically, it's perfect. Number 17 is Castles of Burgundy. Castles of Burgundy is an old classic. It's a dice game. By the way, as we go through this list, I'll get faster and faster. But Castles of Burgundy is a dice game where you're using the dice to place different actions. You'll like it for the dice. It seems fun, but there's a lot of luck involved. I gave it a 4, but man, it's A's and B's. It's done well, but it's A's and B's. Nemesis is kind of like another adventure game, it is an adventure game, but it's a horrifying adventure game. You're trying to escape a spaceship from an alien that's going to attack and could possibly kill you. Thematically, it's very, very interesting. It has element of luck that completely makes it uninteresting to me. I don't want to play it. It's very, very hard. I actually, I don't like it at all. So I gave it a 1. But if, again, those of you who like an adventure, story-driven type game, Nemesis might be for you. 19 is Seven Wonders Duel. This is a military and economic head-to-head kind of game where you're competing to draft cards that will make your kingdom stronger than your opponent's kingdom. There's an excellent tension about this game. I can't think of any reason why you wouldn't want to play it, and that's why I recommend it. Okay, number 20 is Brass Lancashire. It is... Now I've confessed to you that I haven't played all these games, so I haven't played Birmingham. I have played Lancashire. Same thing applies, but I mean, I would guess Birmingham could be different. I'm not going to say much more about Brass. Concordia 21. This is a absolutely dry thematic game. It's you're settling Italy. Could not be more boring. But the way that you're doing it is kind of like a deck builder. You are always holding all of your cards, and when you play a card, it performs an action, and then you can't play that card again until you play the card that lets you pick up all of your cards again. So, but when you pick up all your cards, you get points for how many, or you get money for how many cards you're picking up, and that is your turn. So you want to play as many cards as you can before you pick up, because picking up is not a very effective turn. You get basically more efficient if you can draw it out. So mechanically, I love it. I love this game, but it is A's and B's. It's my favorite A's and B's game. So you will like it if you like the card mechanic. It's worth looking at. Thematically, it's so dry, yet I recommend it. It's one of my favorite games ever. It's been on my top 10 list for several years. 22 is Feast for Odin. This is the same category of more than I need in a game. It is by Uwe Rosenberg. Uwe Rosenberg is an excellent designer. Here's how I would summarize A Feast for Odin. He took all of the games he ever made, put it in one box, called it Feast for Odin. It's Vikings settling, exploring, getting islands, getting sheep and mating them and putting tiles on a table and just it's everything. It's so complex. There's so much to do. It is just too much game. It doesn't need to be that complicated. That's how I feel. So you would love this game if you like complexity and you just want to do everything. You just love having lots and lots and lots and lots of options. It's worker placement too. You will hate this game if you don't like games that are very complex. I like games that are complex, but I hate this game because it's A's and B's and it's too much game. It doesn't feel eloquent. So I give it a 2. I didn't give it a 1. Number 23 is Terra Mystica. It's a game that's an area control game, and players get income when they take the buildings from their player board and put more of them on the map. The more buildings they put out there, the more income they expose. Now, points and victory is driven by objectives that you can satisfy during the game, but at the end of the game, it's all done by competitions. There's a competition for the longest unbroken strand of settlements, and there's competition for advancing on these cult tracks. The thing that I didn't like, and I haven't liked this the last time I played either. I used to love this game, by the way, but in the end, it felt like I was just filling time. I had already secured my position on several cult tracks, but I needed to keep playing just so that nobody could overcome me. Now, I knew that there was nothing else I could do for any other additional value. It was only cult tracks, and I felt like I was just drawing the game out just to make sure that my position was secure. I didn't like that. I really didn't like filling the time. So it drew the game out too much, and for the first time I thought, I think that kind of I don't like it as much as I used to. Anyway, you will like it because of the area control mechanic. The complexity there is a lot of things to consider. It's very intuitive as you play, but the complexity might be negative for you, or you might feel like I feel. And in the end, it's just filling time. So I kind of went from a 5. I used to really like this game, but it's old and maybe it's just been displaced by newer games. I don't know. Now, concerning Gaia Project. Gaia Project is a re-implementation of Terra Mystica. It makes the cult tracks a little bit more interesting. It takes place in space. It's different. It has some improvements, but I don't think the improvements are substantive enough to make the game significantly better if you don't like Terra Mystica. So both of them are pretty much the same ranking in my book. The next game is Wingspan, number 24. Wingspan is a game that is a card-driven game where you are collecting bird cards, and the bird cards modify the actions that you can take. So you can get eggs, you can get food, you can draw more cards. These are the different things you do. But when you have more birds, it allows you to trigger different events. It's a beautiful game, and you'll like it for that mechanic. It is very nice to play, but you also might not like it for the same mechanic, which is that it's played very isolated. So that's one of the biggest criticisms of Wingspan. It's talked about a lot, especially here. I feel like it's not the worst game ever, though. I am going to give it a 2. Arkham Horror is a cooperative horror game. Oh, wait, this is the card game. Oops. This is the card game. I've never played the card game. I have played the original Arkham Horror, but it's not really my game, and I haven't played the card game anyway, so I didn't rank it. Number 26 is Eclipse, Second Dawn of the Galaxy. I'm going to wait until I get to the old Eclipse since I haven't played the new one yet. Now, Clank. Number 27 is Clank. This is the legacy game. I'm going to talk about it even though I've only looked at the original Clank, but that's later on the list. So basically, this is a deck builder game where you are using your cards to get treasure, and you're kind of trying to screw over everybody else by making some noise and then getting out so that the monsters will eat your opponents and not you, and then that way you can get the most treasure. That's what's going on. The thing is, the way that the monsters come about is by drawing out of a bag. So there's 2 elements of luck stacked upon each other. One is the deck building element, the cards that you draw in order to perform actions, and then the other is you're pressing your luck because how deep can you go before the monster attacks you is the question you're always asking. To me, it's too much luck stacked on luck, but the mechanics make the game very interesting. So you would like that game for the card mechanic. You might dislike it because of the luck, and I would call it a luck mismatch, because I'm okay with 1 level of luck, but not 2. 28 is Root. Root is one of my favorite games, and so I recommend it. Here's the thing, though. It's an asymmetrical game. You can play 4 players in this game, where every player has a different set of rules and even a different set of victory conditions. So the complexity to understand going... Oh, I didn't say what the game is about. The game is about dominance in the woodlands. And so the different characters are different animal types and they have different abilities, but you're using dice to modify your warriors as you move them into different contested regions and fight each other. And you also have certain things that you can build in order to get victory points or in order to create goods and make more victory points. There's a few things going on here. The problem with the game, I can't very easily explain it because it's asymmetrical. So much going on. Everyone's playing by a different set of rules. That is why the game is so interesting and why you would love this game. It is also why you might not like this game because it takes a long time to explain. Yet, I have played this with a lot of different groups and people like it even though it is complex. So I recommend the game. That means it's a 5 out of 5. Okay. 29 is Viticulture, and Viticulture, you are making points by growing grapes and making wine and aging the wine. It's a great worker placement game, and it's very well done like Scythe, so that's why you would love the game. I can't think of any reason to not like the game, except for one thing that I didn't write down on my cheat sheet here, and that is, in Viticulture, it's really a boring theme. I don't like making wine as a board game. And you may not like that either, but if you don't mind that theme, it's a really great worker placement. There's a little element of luck, but it's not so much that I can't handle it. I would say I recommend it. A lot of people really love it. Yeah, Viticulture. So number 30 is Everdell. I can't believe I should really put a 2. Well, I don't know. I'm trying to be objective. I'm going to put a 2 for Everdell. Listen, here's the thing with Everdell. It is a card game. That's all it really is. It's a card game where you can get really good combos to make more interesting moves and, most importantly, get more actions. The winner in Everdell is basically the person who can have the most actions. And they do this by getting great combos, drawing cards, identifying combos, drafting them off the table. And then there's some objectives that they're trying to satisfy. You'd like it for the cards. You won't like it because it has nothing to do with animals and woodlands and forest and stuff. Got some beautiful components though. So I don't like it. I think it could be so much more thematic, and it's just not. So I call it a 2. And I talked about Terra Mystica. Everdell really feels like you're feeling time because you are enticed to keep going, and people just keep playing more and more turns, and other people can stop. Like the game can be over for 3 players and a 4th player is still playing. I don't like how long that game drags on. 31 is Orleans. Orleans is a bag management game. You're using pieces from a bag, but what you're doing with these pieces is you're drawing tokens basically, and the arrangement of tokens is what allows you to complete certain actions. So they have little pictures on them, but let's just say they're colors. So maybe it's like a yellow and a red and a blue can go on this and do that action, but a yellow, a red, and a black can go here and do that action. So you're pulling your tokens out, and you're like, well, maybe I can put my yellow and red here, but then how am I going to spend my black? Well, I could do blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of things you can decide. I think that's a really fascinating mechanic. Thematically, what you're doing, though, is you're spreading out across the land and making little towns, and you're getting things to augment your player board and make it stronger, and you're building things and getting resources and trying to get victory points from resources. So thematically, it's very uninteresting, I think. Thematically, is its weakness, but the bag management, this might be the only bag management game in the top 100, and it's a great mechanic. I give it a 4 out of 5. Number 32 is Lost Ruins of Arnak. This is an exploration game where you have to perform research in order to get more materials so that you can explore more places and get cards. There's a little bit of a card or deck builder too. But holy moly, it's A's and B's. Oh, it doesn't mean anything. I like the card mechanic. That's why you might like it. Thematically, it doesn't. It's so insignificant. I give it a 4. It plays very well. Kind of reminds me of the Castles of Burgundy almost, where it's meaningless but it's fun. 33 is Mage Knight board game. This is an adventure game. It is probably my favorite adventure game because it is the gamiest of adventure games. This is not a legacy game. You don't have characters that are leveling up and revealing new cards and all these things. It's just you are spreading out over a board. You've got different objectives, and it's basically a hand management game. As you get hurt, you're taking wound cards, which block up your hand. So you're trying to figure out different ways that you can make more efficient moves and grow your hero's abilities. I think it's really, really well done. It's a bit of it's a lot of material. It's a big game. Thematically, it's fascinating though. So I have its strength. I give it no weaknesses, but I give it a 4 because there's a, you know what? Maybe my weakness is that there's a lot involved in this game. It is a bigger game. Number 34 is Food Chain Magnate. This is one of my favorite games ever. It is a card drafting game, I suppose. You're buying employees to build a marketing campaign in a neighborhood and different restaurant locations, and make sure you have cooks that can prepare the different kinds of food so that you can sell to the clients who are hungry. It is thematically one of the best games ever. It feels like you are literally running a business. It is so thematically strong. It is extremely unforgiving. You will be destroyed if you mess up even in the beginning. So there's that. But it's incredible. If this was a longer review, I would talk at length about it. I'm going to go on though. 35 is Barrage. Barrage is a game where you are trying to generate energy by placing dams. It's a heavy game. It's got a great tightness about it, getting resources and area control as you're placing different dams on the river. Thematically, it makes a lot of sense. It's a lot. Gameplay is different, but it feels a lot like Brass, except I think the gameplay is more intuitive and more interesting. So it is one of my favorite like heavy Euro games, but it is also very hard because of how tight the economy is, the resources you need in order to do things. You will always feel like you don't have enough. So it can seem very unforgiving too. 36 is Puerto Rico. This is a new category game. Okay, Puerto Rico, you're settling Puerto Rico. You've got shipments coming in. You're trying to put little workers out there and get you're harvesting different things. And you've got buildings that can process this and give you victory points in different ways. But, it falls into the category of almost being too Euro. It's an older game, and it's just so classic that it's almost like watching a black and white movie, right? If there's a reason not to like it, it's because you don't want to watch black and white movies anymore, if that connects. I love the action selection. One player picks what they want to do, and everybody gets to do something. But thematically, I think that's the weakness. Yet I'm still going to give it a 4. Marvel, I'm not a fan. You know what? Not only am I not a fan of IP games, I don't like Marvel. I don't even like the movies. So I have not played this, but I've heard very good things. I've heard very good things. It might be worth looking at on somebody else's channel, not mine. 38 is Caverna, the Cave Farmers. Oh, man. I haven't talked about Agricola. Wait, really? Where's it? Okay, I haven't talked about Agricola yet. I'm going to get there soon. Basically, this is a worker placement game, but it's a more complex version of Agricola, where instead of a farm, you're establishing a cave village. It has more game than is needed. I think Agricola is better, so I'll get to Agricola soon. Too Many Bones. It's got a great dice mechanic. It's kind of a role player game. You're building your character using dice, but it's not a game for me, so I'm not going to go into it. Blood Rage. Okay. There is a classic game called Cosmic Encounter, which is, and Blood Rage is a lot like it. I'm going to describe both of them. So basically what you're trying to do is have these interactions with other players, and you want to beat them by playing cards. You're playing different strength cards, and then you have reinforcement cards. The higher number wins. But if you took just that idea, which comes from Cosmic Encounter, and you added to it little miniatures, like lots of very detailed miniatures, and then lots of special abilities that can make your incentive to fight very different. Maybe you get points just for having fights, or maybe you get points for losing fights, and everyone's little objectives are being hidden from them during the time you're playing, so you don't know what people are doing. You reveal those scoring cards later. There's a lot more going on. Cosmic Encounter is a more stripped down version of it, and it's old. It's like the 70s. Cosmic Encounter really gets at the core of what I like about that, and Blood Rage adds all this extra stuff. Thematically, it looks really cool. I mean, like, or the component-wise. I should have said components instead of theme. The components are excellent. The luck and the chaos. You know what? I shouldn't complain, because I like Cosmic Encounter a lot, and it has luck and chaos, and you don't know what's going on. It can be a lot of fun, but there's just too much. It's too much game, too much going on. So I give it I feel neutral about it. 3 out of 5. PAX Pamir. I'm going to play PAX Pamir next week, and it looks fantastic, but I don't know so much about it yet, so I'm skipping it. Agricola. Agricola, you're building a farm. You need to create plots of land that you can plow for produce, for vegetables. You have got animals that you have to put fences around in order to create little pastures, and you're mating them. You got to build your house. You got to get family members. It is such an intuitive and thematic game. It makes so much sense. You've got to feed your workers. It's Uwe Rosenberg's best work, in my opinion, and so many others of his games are just elaborations upon Agricola. Agricola is one of my favorite games. Thematically and mechanically, it is wonderful. There is nothing wrong with it. It has no weakness. There, I said it, and I highly recommend it. Okay, one to skip a few 99 100. You ready? I have not played Underwater Cities. I really want to try Maracaibo. I need to look at Anachrony. Pandemic Legacy Season 2. I've already played Season 1. I don't know if I want to do Season 2. It's a lot of legacy for me. Mansions of Madness. This is like a horror cooperative game, I think. I don't know. It's not for me. Back into the games that I have played. Ready? Okay. Boy, we're only halfway done. 48, The Crew, The Quest for Planet 9. This is a trick-taking cooperative game with the objective of making sure the right people take the right tricks. It has communication limitation. You cannot say what cards you have, but you have to cooperate. Mechanically, that's amazing. So I highly recommend this game. The only thing you might not like about the game is, like a lot of cooperative games, it's based on luck, but also thematically, it has nothing to do with exploring outer space. It's so slapped on. But it falls in that category of luck that you can deal with it in a meaningful way. I like what you have to do with luck. You have cards that are dealt. You don't know what people's cards are. You can't communicate. So you have to cooperate by sending signals non-verbally by the cards you play. Brilliant. Tzolk'in Mayan Calendar. This is a worker placement where you put the workers on gears and the gears rotate. So as they rotate, the actions become stronger and you perform the action once you take the worker off. Mechanically, it's brilliant. That's why I like this game a lot, but it has no meaning at all. So strategy and mechanics are why you would love it. Theme is why you wouldn't. I give it a 4. On Mars. This is a Lacerda game. Vital Lacerda, number 50. You are settling Mars. It's a worker placement where you're moving between the orbit of Mars, where all the science and cool stuff comes from Earth, the imports from Earth, and you got to bring that stuff down to the planet, and you got actions on the planet for settling the planet, exploring it more. So thematically, it's wonderful. Lacerda is brilliant at crafting thematic games, but it is extremely complex enough that you might not like the game. I could have given it a 5. I think I love it, but here's my thing. I don't play it enough because it's so complex. So if a game is that complex, I can't, why, whatever. 51, Mission Deep Sea. As far as I know, I rated this one. I haven't played it. I've only played the Crew. I'm assuming they're basically the same. It's just like an expansion on it, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I should just clear this because I haven't played it. Power Grid is a game that I absolutely hate. It's you know what? Barrage, we talked about generating power. In Power Grid, the way you generate power is by bidding on factories. And you just keep doing that over and over again. It is not interesting. It doesn't belong in the top 100. I even put that on my other video. But mechanics, if you really like bidding, why does it say economy? If you really like bidding, you would like this. Gosh, you wouldn't like it because it's boring as heck. Theme. I give it a 1. Clans of Caledonia. This is an action game where, you know what this is? This is agricultural brass because you've got commodities that are on a market, prices are going up and down, and you've got different ways you can generate those commodities on your own so you can sell them too. You're trying to fulfill contracts, but there are so many. You've got what is it? Milk and cheese and bread and wheat and cows and sheep and wool and beer. There's so many things that you can buy, and meat and what's the thing? Lamb parts. What do you call lamb meat? Anyway, it's just so, and it all doesn't matter. It's all just different things that you're trading for different prices. There's A's and B's all the way. So you might like it because the economy could be really fun. It's agricultural brass. So how I'm going to describe it. But thematically, it's totally dumb. I call it a 2. La Havre is another Uwe Rosenberg game, number 54 here. I played it a long time ago. I really liked it. I feel like I should give it a 4 instead of a 3. I really liked it. But it has that €2. You're basically deciding if you want to buy or rent all of these different things. Do you want to buy this building, or do you want to use this building? And you got to establish different costs, and you're kind of bidding things out from other players and stuff. I played it a long time ago. I really liked it, but thematically, it's just so not interesting. Star Wars Imperial Assault. I'm not into Star Wars. I'm not into IP or Star Wars. Kingdom Death Monster. I'll tell you what. I looked at this game and I wanted to see how to play it, and I was immediately like, nope, don't want to play this game. It's like you're moving miniature monsters around a grid and trying to fight them and stuff. And well, you're trying to survive. It is just not my thing. Mechs and minions. Didn't even look at it. Crokinole. This is the most interesting category, Crokinole here. You know why? This is games that look like beautiful pieces of furniture. You can like put this on your table and it just looks pretty. But it's a dexterity game. You're flicking these discs, you're hitting these different pegs, you're trying to get them into the hole. And the components are beautiful. And if you like dexterity, it's very interesting. I would definitely say that, like Gloomhaven, I mentioned earlier, it doesn't classify as a board game because it's a flicky wooden game. And it has absolutely no theme, so there's that, but it's not bad. Number 59 is Pandemic Legacy Season 0. I have not played this one either. I'm assuming it has many of the same mechanics as Pandemic Legacy Season 1, although I'm not sure what sets it apart. So we'll go to number 60, which is the Quacks of Quedlinburg. Quacks of Quedlinburg is another bag management game like Orleans. Except in this one, there's a press your luck element. What you're trying to do is make a potion by drawing tokens out of your bag. You're trying to draw as many tokens as you can before you draw too many cherry bomb tokens and the potion explodes. And then after everyone has either stopped or their potion has exploded, there's a little bit of scoring, and then people buy more tokens, throw them in the bag, and have a new round. This is a game that you will like to play with your family if you like games with a lot of luck. It is a game that really anybody could win because the only real decision is when to stop drawing and how you want to use the money you earn to buy more tokens. So a lot of luck involved, but the reason you won't like it is because there's a lot of luck involved. I don't like this game at all. I feel like it's playing bingo, or everybody simultaneously running their own personal lottery. The decision making is not meaningful to me at all. I don't like it. I do play it with my kids, but not the best game design. Number 61 is The Gallerist. This is also designed by Vital Lacerda, who designed On Mars, which I mentioned earlier. But in The Gallerist, I think this is his best game. And the reason why is because thematically there's an excellent art show, or you are the curator of an art gallery, and you're discovering artists and commissioning their artwork, and then you're selling it or you're showing it off in your museum, and you're trying to get points from doing this successfully. So there's an excellent economy to this and a wonderful worker placement mechanic where if somebody goes in a location where you previously went, you get to perform another action. So there are some excellent combos that can be done. It is a less complicated Lacerda game and just really addictive gameplay. I think that it is very well rounded, although the worker placement mechanic is very interesting. So I highly recommend The Gallerist. Although, you know what, I should put in there, if there's anything to not like about it, it would be the complexity. Because it is, all Lacerda games are quite complex. Lisboa is another Lacerda game, except it's one that I haven't played. I've heard good things about it. Number 63, Cascadia. This is a tile placing game that people are really excited about. It does not interest me at all. I have read the rules several times and considered buying it, but it's just so... it's like it's recycling a lot of other tile placing mechanics. There's not very much that's unique about this game. It has a nature theme, but the theme is very much slapped on there. The scoring is based on different objectives that can be different every time. So it is just a run-of-the-mill tile placing game with very little that makes it set apart. But tile placing games are fun. So, these are hex tiles, by the way. Thematically, there's nothing to it, so theme is the weakness. It's run of the mill. Like, it's not bad. It's just not exciting. So that's why I give it a 3. I'm neutral about it. So we'll go on. Number 64 is Paladins of the West Kingdom. Paladins of the West Kingdom is made by Garfield Games, which makes several games on this list. I'm going to talk about this one more when I get to Architects. 65 is Azul. Azul is another tile placing game. Mechanically, it's very swift and very tactile. This has some wonderful components, like these really nice tiles that you're picking up, and you get to take all of one color, and then the ones that are not the same color get kind of left into a trash pile. And I guess what you're trying to not do is be the one who has to take the leftover tiles that you can't fit into your tableau of tiles. It's very abstract. You're supposed to be a Portuguese mosaic maker, but there's nothing thematic about this game at all. It is a very abstract but satisfying tile placing game with very abstract scoring mechanics. No theme at all. And I'm kind of over it. I used to think it was really swift gameplay, but it's very thematically uninteresting. 66 is The Seventh Continent. This is another adventure game. This one is card driven. So you're looking at cards that tell you to read other cards, and everything that you can do is based on a deck of cards, and as the deck depletes, that's when you die or you expire once the deck is depleted. It's not a game for me. It's really not. I don't like discovering things. I'd rather know. So 67 is Eclipse. Now, I didn't mention Eclipse Second Dawn for the Galaxy. So I didn't talk about Second Dawn for the Galaxy because I haven't played it. I've only played the original Eclipse. So I'm hoping that my description is essentially, they've made improvements. You definitely are going to play Second Dawn of the Galaxy. That's the one that's in print right now. But this is another epic exploring, building an economy as you put your position on different planets, gaining resources, building a technology track. There's a little bit of warfare involved. You're invading these other planets. There's a lot going on in this game, and in my opinion, this game is superior to Twilight Imperium. I just feel like it's more tangible. I feel like there's a lot more chaos going on in Twilight Imperium, and Eclipse is elegant. I think elegant is a good way to describe Eclipse. I love the economy in this game. Thematically, it's excellent. It can be a very long game. That's probably why you wouldn't play it. I did put it as a 5 for me, but I didn't put it as a recommend because even though I love it, I'm always wary of recommending really heavy epic games. Number 68 is Android Netrunner. This is a 2-person card game. It's also IP, but it has a neat bluffing mechanic. You're building these lines of cards and you're using them to attack your opponent, but you don't know which line of cards your opponent is building, where their victory points are. So you try different things, and the opponent can bluff, or they're buffering a line of cards that is actually of no value. There's some excellent tension. The game is done. The producer lost the license, so it won't be printed in new boxes anymore, but you can get a second copy. I'm kind of neutral about it anymore, so I gave it a 3. I have not played Aeon's End. I've heard that I should. Number 70, Through the Ages, A Story of Civilization. So this is just an older version of the other game that I've already talked about. I've never played it before. It is older. I'm assuming it's similar. 71, Race for the Galaxy. This is a very popular card game with lots of distinct cards. Um, it is, it's a very swift, quick, easy to play if you have familiarity with it. I don't like it at all because it's another one of these A's and B's. It's all symbols. Every card has symbols on it. Every card is different. So you're looking at your hand of cards. You're trying to figure out how you're going to make combinations of cards and how you're going to optimize the utility of some cards so you can get the best effect. But it's all just reading different symbols. Okay, this means this and this. Da, 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 da. I don't like that. I would like a game that has a little bit more intuition about it. All right, Clank. So I'd already talked about Clank. This is the one I'm more familiar with. I don't know the legacy game, but it's certainly a lot of fun. Just, to me, a luck mismatch. Number 73 is Five Tribes. I really enjoy Five Tribes. This is a game where what you're trying to do is it's a worker. Boy, it's different. It's got a Mancala mechanic to it. So you've got a board with lots of different groups of workers. It's actually a square grid. You're picking up a group of workers and you're moving them, and each movement you're dropping one off, just like Mancala. And then the last worker gets to perform an action based on where they land and the color of that worker. And then those get picked off and taken off the board. So you play the game until there are no workers left, basically. I like how tactile that is, to pick them up and to move them around. It is extremely abstract. It has like kind of a Aladdin type theme to it. There are lots of genies or jinns. So there's some nice artwork attached to the game on the cards, but this is super, A's and B's. Again, that's what I've been calling it. I think it's better than Azul, though, because I think there's a lot more going on, a lot more to think about, but in a meaningful way, not too much. Number 74 is Fields of Arle. That's another Uwe Rosenberg game, and in my opinion, I feel much like about this one that I do about Feast for Odin. It's just a game where he goes too far with all of the mechanics, and it very little to return on what gets invested into this game. This is a 2-player agricultural game, so lots of trading of different resources and livestock, and you're mating them and so on. But it's thematically it's not very profound. To me, it's A's and B's again. But Teotihuacan, or Teotihuacan, City of Gods, is not a game I've played. Has been recommended to me, and I haven't gotten to it yet. 76, Robinson Crusoe, Adventures of the Cursed Island. This is a game where it's an adventure game where you're trying to survive or get help to escape a island where you and the rest of your crew have been stranded. And it is a very card-driven game. I owned it for a few years, and it never went over well with the people that I introduced it to. It's just very much like going on a choose-your-own-adventure. So thematically, I thought it was excellent. I mean, the kinds of decisions that you're making are really great, but there's a ton of luck, and it's very, very difficult. Gave it a 2. Agricola Revised Edition. So I've already talked about Agricola. I don't think I'm going to talk about Agricola Revised Edition. If you buy Agricola, this will be what you get anymore. 78, Voyages of Marco Polo. So Voyages of Marco Polo is thematically what you're supposed to be doing is exploring parts of Asia, and you're moving these little explorers from city to city. You're buying cities. They give you a benefit, but the means of these actions are dice. It's a worker placement, or it's a dice worker placement game. This one really strikes me, and I don't know. I mean, I like it, but it has all of the same attributes as some of these what I keep calling A's and B's. I mean, everything is so abstract. It really is abstract. Thematically, it's not a strong game. I really like the dice worker placement, and I've really enjoyed it. So I suppose I recommend it. I really like it, but I would put on here the category is, just this kind of meaningless stuff. But good, but still good. Grand Austria Hotel. I decided not to rate this one, or because I have played it, but I played it a long time ago. I did not enjoy it when I played it. It was very forgettable to me. So I don't want to. I guess I feel neutral about it. It's been a long time. I've been playing games for like 12 years. Number 80 is Seven Wonders. Seven Wonders popularized the card drafting mechanic, where all players are dealt a hand of cards, pick one, and then pass the hand to the player on their left or right. In this game, you are trying to gather cards that will help you get resources to buy stronger cards. Some cards will get you points, others will get you science, and even military so that you can go to war with a player on your left and right. So it was really exciting when I first learned it. I'd never played a game like that before, which is why this game is probably still on the top 100 today. Although that card drafting mechanic is now used by so many other games. You'll like this game because of that mechanic. You might not like it because of its complexity. The thing is, it is not a game that is easily learned the first time you play it. It seems like everyone I've ever taught it to is a little overwhelmed by the game and has no idea what's going on until after the game is finished, and then they kind of get a sense and are willing to play again. Seven Wonders. 82 is 81. Lords of Waterdeep. Lords of Waterdeep is a game that I've looked into several times. It's kind of got this it's like the back end of D&D. The objective is to send heroes off on quests, and the theme is not very interesting to me. It's not a game I've ever tried before. 82 is Dominant Species. Dominant Species is an epic war game with a programming mechanic. This is why a type of game where earlier in the round players will choose the actions they want to do but not perform them, and then after everyone has chosen their actions, then the actions are performed and you can't take back the choices you had made earlier. So that programming mechanic is very interesting. I love the strategy involved in the game, but it does have a little bit of a hectic nature to it because there are event cards that can really turn the game around. So you would like it for that programming mechanic. You might not like it because of its duration. It can be a very long game, like 4 to 6 hours, although it's easy to shorten the game by modifying how many cards you play with. And then there is an element of luck that makes it a little chaotic. So these days, I'm not as excited about it as I used to be. I give it a 3, and maybe a 4, but there is a new Oceans edition of Dominant Species, which is supposed to resolve a lot of the issues with luck. 83 is Kanban EV. So, to be honest, I have not played Kanban EV, but I have played Kanban. It is another Vital Lacerda game. It was the first Lacerda game that I ever tried, and I got really excited by it. It's worker placement, and it's got an excellent theme. He's always good with theme, but given its complexity, I don't think the payoff is as good. I am not as excited by this game, so I feel more neutral about it, giving it a 3. 84 is Tainted Grail. I know very little about that game. 85 is Architects of the West Kingdom, and I said when we saw Paladins of the West Kingdom that I would talk about this game company. So Garfield Games has 3 games on the list when we include Voyagers of the North Sea, which we'll get to. They are worker placement type games, and they fall flat for me. All of them are just kind of forgettable. They're all kind of forgettable. The thing about Architects of the West Kingdom, it's worker placement, and you can place multiple workers in one spot. The more workers you have, the more powerful the action is, but one of the actions is to send all of the workers in one spot to jail. but it sounds very interesting. I have never been very excited by any of the games that are produced by this company. So, but yeah, it's admirable. It's okay. Thematically, I think they're all of the games are pretty weak, except for Voyagers of the North Sea, which we'll get to. And so I have a pretty neutral rating. I have not played El Grande, but I do know about the game. It is a very early worker placement game. Uh, as I understand it, Viticulture, which has like the big worker, um, some games there is a large meeple, and the large meeple can take a spot even if somebody else um, has already blocking that spot. And so that idea of the big meeple is, I guess, was invented for El Grande, which means the big, right? So it's a original worker placement game. It has that too classic Euro theme about it that makes it a little less interesting. And I haven't tried it. I called it old school. It's very old school. 1995. Keyflower 87. Keyflower. Honestly, it's a game that I looked into years ago. Didn't really inspire me, so I never bought it. Never played it. 88 is Sleeping Gods. This is I believe it's a cooperative game with like kind of a bunch of different scenarios, but I haven't tried it yet, so not much to say here. 89 Kalis. This is another early worker placement game. It is, man, I would have been so excited about it in 2005 when it first came out, but with the kinds of worker placements and you know how that idea has been like innovated and developed over time, the kinds of stuff that you can play these days is so much more interesting. So it's another one of those old school games. Battlestar Galactica, number 90. This is the original game for what is now called Unfathomable. And so I have not played Battlestar Galactica. I guess that's another IP that the license was lost, but Unfathomable is essentially the same thing. It's a trader game where somebody has a hidden role. They're trying to upset all of the other players. There are also monsters you're trying to fight off. I was not very excited by Unfathomable. You might like it because of the trader, but in the theme, it's hard to say what is wrong with the game necessarily. I'm not really into that kind of game. Mabasa is a game that I played too many years ago at this point. It has a neat investing mechanic about it, and it is about settling and establishing companies in Africa to exploit that continent. So kind of an interesting and a little bit of a not kind of dark theme, or but it's been a really long time. So I I guess the fact that I haven't been pulled back to it, it means I feel a little neutral. 92 Trois. Trois is one of my favorite games. It's because this is a dice worker placement game, where in this game you have your own dice, but you also have the option of buying your opponent's dice. So if you have bad luck, you can essentially buy somebody else's good luck. And they get to have your money, but you get to have their workers. I think that's really cool. It's one of those games where you can do something meaningful with luck, which is why I think it's an excellent game for its mechanics. Thematically, it's okay. I highly recommend the game, although it's a little bit more of a complicated game, I think. It's not exactly a gateway game. 93 Dominion Intrigue. So Intrigue is actually an expansion upon Dominion. I've played Intrigue and Dominion. It's a classic gateway board game or card game, really. It's a deck builder. It's a deck builder where you have 5 cards and you get to perform one action and perform one buy, which means buy another card. And what you're trying to do is get victory points into your deck, but victory points don't give you actions or money, so you have to kind of get an appropriate balance. I think everyone graduates from Dominion eventually. 94 is Twilight Imperium 3rd edition. Because I've talked about 4th edition, I'm going to skip this one. 95 is Raiders of the North Sea. Again, I think that by I called it Voyages earlier in the video. Raiders of the North Sea, by Garfield Games again. So it's pretty forgettable, and I'm not very excited by it. Although thematically, I think this is the most interesting game that they've made. Lord of the Rings, 96. Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle Earth. Another game I haven't tried before. Eldritch Horror. This is related to the Arkham Horror and all of these cooperative horror games. I haven't tried this one. I didn't like Arkham Horror, so that's kind of why I stopped. Yeah, not for me. Lorenzo il Magnifico. This is something that I definitely need to try. I've heard a lot of really good things about it. I'm looking forward to trying it one day. Just haven't gotten around to it yet. Beyond the Sun, number 99. This is a tech tree game. This is where players are revealing cards that give abilities, and they have to invest in that technology in order to gain that ability. And the investment is a tree, so you can go off on one branch or another branch, and different levels of technology are worth victory points at the end. You also have an area of space that you're trying to settle, and you're getting cards for building settlements in space. It's got a lot going on, and one of the things I like about it, it's not very combative. I really enjoy that about the game. It's a game about space exploration science. So I think it's an excellent worker placement game. And there is a little bit of chaos because of the technology that comes out. So you won't know at the start of the game what the technologies will be. It's up to the players to choose the technology. I do think that's very interesting, but what they have to choose from is very much up to luck. And then lastly, 100 is Tigris and Euphrates. Tigris and Euphrates is a very rich, abstract strategy game on a square grid, actually, where you're trying to spread out your influence and gain points by having more tiles of the same color. And then you can steal regions of the board from other players by overpowering them. The problem, though, is that there is an element of luck involved because you have to draw these tiles in order to place them, and then it's not a thematic game at all. There's like military, and there's a theme slapped on it, but it's not a meaningful theme. I liked it initially, but as I played it more and more, and I've played it many times, my enthusiasm dwindled, and now I kind of feel neutral about it. So that is my review of nearly 100 games. There are still some games left that I need to try out. I'd love to hear what your recommendations are.